Listen to the 48 Hours podcast for shocking murder cases and compelling real-life dramas from one of television's most watched true crime shows. Go behind the scenes of each episode with award-winning CBS News correspondents and producers in Postmortem, a weekly deep dive. Listen to 48 Hours wherever you get your podcasts.
Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, now streaming only on Netflix.
Whether you're a diehard sports fan, a hopeless romantic, or a comedy aficionado, the Xfinity 10G network was made for streaming it all. Worry less about buffering when streaming your favorite shows, movies, or live sports, and enjoy a better way to watch. Xfinity gives you a reliable connection for streaming, plus all the entertainment you love all in one place. Fear not, because now you can finally sit back, relax, and stream your favorite entertainment and sports like never before with the Xfinity 10G network.
New Mucinex Kickstart provides an all-in, one-and-done relief with a morning jolt of cooling sensation. From long commutes and early meetings to spin classes and school drop-offs, mornings are busy enough. Who's got time to tackle fevers, coughs, sore throats, congestion, headaches, or body pains? Not you. So come back with a kick. Buy Mucinex Kickstart at your local retailer. Use as directed.
This episode of the DBR Podcast is brought to you by those guys from Byrd Campbell, PA, a law firm with offices in Dallas, Orlando, and Fort Lauderdale. Byrd Campbell means business. Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to DBR Podcast episode number 123. Wow, that is a huge number. We just keep going higher and higher. We are coming to you on Monday, August 20th. The Duke basketball team is back from their week-long road trip to Canada, and we are going to discuss the entire week. But before I do that, I'm Donald Wine. I'm the captain of the ship this week, and I'm coming to you from my home in the District of Columbia. As usual, my peoples are here to discuss the basketball with me. First in the Bull City, the student, Sam Klein. What's up, man?
Sorry, I thought this was the Zion Williamson report. Did I log into the wrong show?
Oh no, I think it encompasses that.
Okay, great.
You're just going to have to tomahawk your coverage. So, but we also have our resident ATLian, Jason Evans, is in the building. Jason, what's up, man?
I'm just thrilled that we get to talk about actual basketball that we saw played by guys in Duke uniforms. It's been a while, and I am so excited.
Yeah, I kind of like that we have this little August show that we can talk about actual live basketball against competition that is not ourselves. I really like that. So, you know what? As we mentioned at the top of the show, Duke basketball took its once every 4 years trip abroad, and they didn't go far. They went to Toronto and Montreal for the week to play 3 games. They took on Ryerson University on Wednesday, winning 86-67. That was in Toronto. After that, they faced the University of Toronto, winning 96-60. And then finally, to wrap things up, yesterday they played McGill University in Montreal, and they blasted them 103-58. So what we're going to do, instead of going through each of these games individually, guys, I got a couple topics that will encompass all the games. I'm going to throw them at you. You tell me what's up. Sound good with you?
That works.
Okay, here we go. The first topic, Zion Williamson. He had, how do we say this? He had a beast of a week in Canada. He only had a grand total of 89 points and 34 rebounds in 3 games. So, Sam, I'm going to give you this question. Is Zion the real deal, or are we not supposed to read too much into all the exciting highlights we saw from this past week?
So with those caveats applied that we mentioned a couple weeks ago on the preview show, and I'm going to get, I think, to sort of recapping my preview because a lot of it was irrelevant in the face of injuries. What I can say is that Zion Williamson looks like one of the scariest basketball players that I have ever seen. And the way I want to think about those caveats, about how these teams that Duke was playing don't feature the kind of size they're going to see from top caliber ACC squads, things like that. Zion still maneuvered through traffic with the ball, was dribbling really well, made a bunch of really crafty layups. We knew that there were going to be dunks. We knew that he was going to leak out on breakaways and he was going to be fed for the big jams. And you could tell that his teammates were loving it. RJ Barrett, Jordan Goldwire, everyone was getting in on the assist to Zion's Thunder Dunks game. But the way that he maneuvered in traffic, the way that he calmly was passing and shooting from the perimeter, I mean, he showed a full skill set that I don't think we knew that he had. You know, coming into these games and looking at Zion at the end of his senior year, there was some and we've admitted on the show, at least I've admitted, I don't watch a lot of high school basketball. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on how good all these players are in high school and how they project and all that stuff. I think the general theme we heard about Zion is that he is still pretty raw, but he has all that athleticism and size and speed and all the physical characteristics. I did not expect a player who was going to be so polished handling the basketball. I mean, he handled the basketball as well as any person his size that I've ever seen, especially in college. And we're going to get, I assume, to some player comparisons for him. There's nobody that handles the ball like he does. And that was what was most impressive.
Hey, Sam, what about to me, the most impressive thing was the body control. His ability to get in the lane, to hesitate once he was there, to absorb contact and finish. I mean,
absorbing contact isn't very hard for him, but
yeah. And by the way,
at least it shouldn't be.
He's never going to get a foul call. He doesn't get foul calls when he gets hit because it doesn't affect him.
He's got the Shaq effect going for him.
But Jason, I think you and I are sort of making the same point, which is that the way that he was maneuvering was so skillful. And they did say on he admitted on the broadcast that he only weighs 275, so not the enormous 285, of course, that we were led to believe a few weeks ago. But you're making the right point that the way that he moves is so advanced for a player of his age, regardless of him having so much size. That just makes it all the more impressive. I mean, watching him on TV, even with other college players, he's like noticeably, he's like 30% thicker from, like across the shoulders than everybody else on the court, who are all under, the same weightlifting program and all of that. So I can't say enough about how incredible he was.
So Sam, you mentioned he was not 275. He's not, that outstandingly enormous 285. He's a rather svelte 275, which is a difference of only 10 pounds. But it's funny how he said that, like, no, guys, I'm not 285. I'm 275. I'm lighter, so I'm quick on my feet. This dude is just ridiculous. But the one point that I have, you encompassed a lot of what I was going to say about Zion because, it was an absolute marvel. One thing that he did that if you go back through the tapes and watch, he made Dan Schulman and Jay Billis, the two guys calling the games, he made them break character because normally during broadcast, they're very even keeled. They talk a lot about the players, but they're not fans. These guys were fans at a certain point in that third game against McGill when he tomahawked that dunk through the soul of an entire universe. It was like you could hear Jay Billis just jump out. He shrieked. Like he was just like, oh, like he became a fan. And I think what this team is about, we have a lot of great players on this team. We've seen them over the last 3 games. But what Zion brings to the table is he turns people into fans. All those guys that were on the team, they were watching Zion to see what he can do next. And it could be because he's a YouTube sensation, but that kind of star quality is something that I don't think anyone's ever really seen before. So that is what was incredible to kind of watch two guys who are normally very even-keeled and very professional have a week where they were fans of how he played and the next guy that we have coming up, RJ Barrett. Jason, I'm going to go to you for RJ Barrett. He returned to his native land. He's from Canada.
Wait. You're not going to let me talk about Zion? Hold on. No.
Go ahead.
Jason, why don't you cover Zion's defense?
Oh.
No, wait. Okay, no, here's a real question.
Actually, wait.
Let's talk about his rebounding. I want you to talk about his rebounding.
I was going to say, I wanted to talk about his rebounding. That's
there
actually that's the point. By the way, Donald, I think before I get to the rebounding, I just want to say your point about making people fans, making the game fun to watch. That to me is the biggest takeaway we had here. Did you guys see that Dwayne Wade was tweeting about how he and his son were watching Duke play in Canada and how much fun it was, and how much his son, who by the way is a legit player in the class of 2020. Duke isn't recruiting him yet, but like Florida State and Michigan State are recruiting his son. Dwayne Wade's son can play. Dwayne Wade tweeted that he was watching Duke play basketball in an exhibition game against Canada. And that's because of Zion Williamson. It's also because of RJ Barrett, but that's mostly because of Zion Williamson.
And Jason, what he was doing is he was making haters believers. I can't tell you how many people who texted me saying, yo, you know my thoughts on your program, but damn it if Zion isn't the best player I've seen in a long time. Like, he is going to make a lot of people, whether they hate Duke or love Duke, he's going to make them watch Duke basketball play. And I think that is something that, he's a uniter of sorts. But Jason, talk about his rebounding.
So I was going to say the thing that impressed me the most about Zion watching these three games, aside from that body control in the lane, and his ability to finish in the lane, which was so impressive, was his rebounding and his hands especially. Against Ryerson, there was a play in the second quarter, just at the start of the second quarter, that I think epitomizes what we're going to get from Zion this year that is so jaw-dropping. He brings the ball up the floor and he drives. And the defense comes to him and he somehow sees Jack White open in the corner. And he makes a great pass to Jack White. And White misses the shot, which is going to happen a lot because Jack White played really well and is going to hit a lot of three-pointers for Duke. But White misses the shot. So Zion has created the play and created the pass. The ball's in the air. And Zion just jumps plain out of the building to grab the rebound. And then his putback, it was jaw-dropping. And he did that over and over again. His ability to get in the air and those hands, all he needs is a pinky on the ball, and he's got it. And then once he gets the ball in the lane, forget it. He's going up and he's slamming with huge authority. He's one of the more impressive rebounders I've seen for Duke in a while. And we just got off a season where we watched Wendell Carter and Marvin Bagley set all kinds of freshman rebounding records and stuff. What Zion Williamson, the caveat is the competition, I know, but my God, I want to go back to your original question, Donald. It really looks like he's the real deal in a big, big way.
Yeah, it's again, we talked about this last episode. We talked about it a little bit today. It's hard to kind of sit there and say, yo, we're about to win every single game. These guys are going to go up for 30 points a game every game. That's not going to happen. But there is a lot of cause for excitement. There's a lot of legit excitement that you can take from Zion Williams' performance this past week. So now I want to talk about, and now I'm actually going to go to you, Jason, about RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett, as we know, is Canadian. This turned into sort of a homecoming of sorts, even though that wasn't the original plan. But he came home in a big way. He had a pretty good week. He had 92 points in 3 games. Like, he averaged 30 points a game. Jason,
that's sick.
That's ridiculous. Jason, you've told us time and time again.
He averaged 30 points a game, and he's not even the most important thing that happened.
Exactly. Like, so that actually leads me to my question, Jason. You've told us time and time again about how RJ was going to be the star of this team. Did you see what you thought from RJ Barrett last week? And I'll ask it further. Did you see something about him that makes him feel like he is going to be the star, or that he's happy to share the spotlight with Zion Williamson?
I mean, what I saw between Zion and RJ was guys who enjoyed feeding each other. I mean, look, how many highlights were there of Zion feeding RJ for a slam and RJ feeding Zion for a slam? These are two guys who play off of each other really well. But I think because the ball is in his hands more than anyone else, because he's the guy taking most of the shots, I think this is RJ's team. He feels to me like a team leader more so than Zion Williamson. Zion's great. Make no mistake about it. But I mean, do you guys disagree with me? I feel like what I saw RJ's team. And I've got no problem with that. I'm thrilled with that because one thing I really liked about RJ was I really liked his defense. I thought he played high quality defense. He had a lot of intensity, tenacity. He was he's got long arms, really long arms, and a long stride. And his arms allowed him to be pesky on defense. And I think that oftentimes, if your team leader, if your best player is also your best defender, it makes everyone else work harder on defense. It makes everyone else play better defense. And I think this team defensively is going to take a cue from RJ Barrett because RJ is the team leader, in my opinion. In terms of what I saw, go ahead.
I was going to say on that point about defense, one of the big criticisms about the last few years that we've had and a lot of other folks have had about Duke is that these one and done freshmen a lot of times are very polished offensively. Jason Tatum, Brandon Ingram, Jabari Parker, guys who are, similarly sized to an RJ Barrett, but they don't have the defensive chops. And in some cases like Parker, they're pretty bad on defense. But as you said, Jason, Barrett looks like he knows exactly what he's doing and has good control and good awareness of the court. That's rare for any freshman to have that kind of defensive ability.
Yeah. Now, so I want to go to the other side of the ball now for a second, because I'm not sure we've seen many guys at Duke who get to the rim with as much ease as RJ Barrett does. I mean, his strides, do you see how many times there are times when he has the ball like at the foul line or, foul line extended. He only needs like 2 steps to get to the rim. And guys they're prepared to defend that. That's the thing to me that is most impressive about his game. And look, I know in the first game, the game against Ryerson, he did not shoot well from the field. A lot of people said, yeah, he scored 34 points against Ryerson, but he did it by how many shots was he scored 34 points on 30 shots. People were like, 30 shots. Wow. I don't know about that. Well, if you look at the next couple games, he was way more efficient. And especially if you take out 3-pointers, and look, this is a guy who's going to have to work on his 3-point shot. There's no question about that. But over the course of the 3 games, RJ Barrett shot 57% on 2-point shots, including 12 of 18 against Toronto and 7 of 11 against McGill. So he can hit it when he's not inside that 3-point line. And he's just going to be he gets his shot with such ease that I think we're just going to get a ton of easy points by having him on the team. Now, I'll tell you the thing that concerns me. It's not just his 3-point percentage. It's his free throw shooting. RJ Barrett hit 53% of his free throws. That's terrible. And I'll give you the really bad news. The really bad news is he shot 30 free throws. A lot. It's because he's so quick. It's because he's getting to the rim. The help defense is coming, or the guy who's defending him is trying to, collect himself after he's been burned by RJ and he fouls him. In 3 games, RJ Barrett took 30 free throws and only made 16 of them. If he's going to take 10 free throws a game, and maybe he's not going to take that many, but if he's going to take 6, 7, 8 free throws a game, which I think he will over the course of this season, we're going to need him to hit more like, 65, 70%, hopefully more than 70% of his free throws. So to me, that's one of the biggest things that come out of RJ's game is that the free throw shooting needs to be better. The 3-point shooting needs to be a little bit better. And then I just think he's a dominant player in terms of scoring inside the 3-point line. And we just haven't had many guys like him who get to the rim as easily as he does.
Yeah, I noticed a fluidity to his game that is something that you don't really see from a lot of players in college basketball. You don't see from a lot of guys in the pros. And, one thing that struck me when they were talking with his father yesterday on the broadcast, they were asking about how he modeled his game. And he mentioned that he was he grew up, he's right-handed in everything except for basketball. And I think that is kind of where you can see the determination of a kid. Like, he talked about how he wanted to go to Florida to enhance his game. He wanted to stay in the United States and play high school basketball to be amongst the best and play with the best players. And I think that sort of determination just really somehow cultivated into a fluid style of play on both sides of the ball. You mentioned, Jason, when Dwayne Wade was tweeting that he and his son were watching Duke basketball, it was because of RJ Barrett. He specifically mentioned RJ Barrett by name and mentioned that he was watching his game because he saw a lot of him in RJ Barrett. And I see that fluidity, especially from the early part of Dwayne Wade's career. That fluidity, you can tell RJ Barrett has been studying some of his moves because he has that game. And I think that's something that you really don't see a lot from anybody, not just, college basketball, but in the NBA as well. Sam, do you have anything to add on RJ Barrett before we move on?
Just that as it pertains to one of the things we were missing in this game, which was Tre Jones and his point guard ability, which I had said in the preview was the thing I was looking forward to the most. RJ Barrett handles the ball, not elite, the way you really want your top point guard to be, but if he can give this team 10, 15 minutes a game of playing point guard and kind of having that modified offense, the way that I think some successful wing players in the recent past, like Grayson Allen, have had, it takes a huge amount of the weight off of Tre Jones to be 35 minutes a game, the facilitator on this team.
Hey, Sam, I actually think the guy who's going to do that is Cam Reddish. From watching the McDonald's All-American practices, Cam Reddish is a point guard in a 6'8" body. Cam Reddish is a great facilitator and has really good handle and incredible court vision. One of the things missing in this game.
So RJ Barrett is the third best point guard on this team?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No question about it. Maybe fourth best, because I thought Jordan Goldwire actually played pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to play during the regular season. Let's not fool ourselves. And Donald, I'm sure we're going to get to, what the injuries did to Duke's rotations and the such. But I think Cam Reddish will be the guy who probably spells Tre Jones a little bit at point guard.
Before we get to the rest of the team and their performances, there's one more guy I want to highlight, and it's kind of on the downside of things. Marquis Bolden. He was a guy that Coach K himself said was going to be one of the best big men in the country. And Marquis Bolden went up to Canada and dropped the grand total of 0 points. That is 92 less than RJ Barrett had. So, Sam, I'm going to ask you this. Did Marquis Bolden just have a bad week, or is this the Marquis Bolden that we have to kind of expect that we're going to have this season?
I think that we said in the preview that because Jason had posed the question about which of those developments was the biggest deal. And I think we agreed that the big one was if Marquis Bolden is actually looking like one of the best big men in the country, that takes this team to a whole other level. He's not, he doesn't show up in the preseason previews of Duke as being the number one guy, the go-to guy. He's a junior, but he hasn't really played much. He hasn't shown the ability, I think, that he had in high school. It hasn't translated yet at the college level. And we were thinking, well, that's great news, having not seen him yet this summer. But we also were sort of skeptical, and maybe Coach K was kind of just using it as a motivational technique for him. And my takeaway from these games is, yeah, that's actually the case. We say that the tough thing about the exhibition games, as far as our projecting them out to the rest of the season, is that the big men often look better than they actually are. They are usually able to get more rebounds. They get easier points around the rim, all that kind of stuff. And Bolden didn't have any of that. He didn't handle the ball well when it came to him. He looked lost on defense, wasn't recovering well on pick and rolls. There wasn't really anything that stood out, and I think Coach K saw that as well, and benched him for an entire half of one of the games. So I'm pretty disappointed. I was hoping that we were going to see more from Bolden. Maybe things change in the next 2 months. Obviously, it's still early. They have lots of time to integrate everybody together. The team's only been practicing together for a few weeks, et cetera, et cetera. But so far, yeah, not great returns on Bolden.
Yeah, and I think with one quick thing that I was disappointed in is that, we talked about whether or not that Coach K was either gassing them up or whether he really thought that, from what he had seen, that Bolden was going to be one of the best big men in the country. I think the consensus that we all can agree on is that he doesn't even have to be with this lineup, but if he's a capable, serviceable big man, whether he's starting or whether he's coming off the bench to spell one of the guys, I think if he's just, serviceable and can, be a guy that's not really just, doesn't make any waves, but just gets the job done. That's what this team needs. He doesn't need to be a 20 and 10 guy. But 10 rebounds would be great. And just basically making sure that the defense inside is good and collecting some rebounds and some putback dunks. But I think going to Canada and with this kind of fanfare amongst the team, throwing up a goose egg in Canada, that just doesn't. It sounds like more than a bad week to me. And I think that is what's most concerning about the whole week in general is that that one guy that all he has to do is just be good. Was very, very, very mediocre, if not terrible, this week. So, Jason, what do you think?
So I'm really torn. I mean, obviously, I was the guy who tossed out this notion of Kay talking about Bolden as one of the best big men in the country, as a big, big development for Duke over the summer. So for him to do what he did, or maybe the better way to say it is to not do anything in Canada was really disappointing. And it's frustrating, and people are really ripping Marquis Bolden. They're talking about him not having good effort and things like that. My takeaway on all of this is, there's no way to sugarcoat what a bad week he had. I mean, Marquis Bolden, the only guys in the team who played less than he did were Brennan Besser and Mike Buckmeyer. I mean, Justin Robinson, the two walk-ons. Justin Robinson played more minutes than he did. Vrank played more minutes than he did. Joey Baker played more minutes than Bolden did. That's not a good sign. The fact that Kay wasn't even willing to put him on the floor for most of these games, and he only had 3 field goals attempts. He only had 9 rebounds. He didn't score a single point. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Marquis Bolden was terrible in Canada. But, and here's the but, we've seen him play well in the past. I mean, this is a guy who, he had a stretch, last season, like the month of February, he was consistently playing 12, 16, 18 kind of minutes for Duke throughout that entire month, and quite often playing really well. I mean, you could count on him many of those games for 6 or 8 points and 4, 5, 6, 7 rebounds while only playing, 15 minutes or so. Those are big numbers for a guy only playing 15 minutes. And that was against ACC competition. He was doing that against UNC and Louisville and Syracuse, and Notre Dame. Those are some of his better games last year. We've seen him perform, so we know that he can. So I'm going to try to put this behind us, behind Marquis and behind the Duke team. This is a guy who is clearly capable of being a solid contributor and a good ACC player. So I think, like you said, there's 2 months until the regular season starts again. Until actually it's almost 2 months until we start doing, big time practices again, with the coaches attending the practices. There's plenty of time for him to work on what he needs to work on, which is intensity, physicality, and really being present when he's in the game. And I think he will. I've seen him do it enough. He sucked this week. He sucked big time, but I've seen him be good. So I know he can, and I think he will in the future.
Well, let's hope that we can, he can put this week behind us or behind him and move forward. And I think, as you said, I think we're all counting on him to have a much improved year as we move forward. Before we wrap up, I want to quickly focus on the rest of the team and their performances. we obviously know that Cam Reddish and Trey Jones were out for the entire week. They had some small injuries and they were kept out as a precaution. And Alex O'Connell suffered a broken facial bone in the first game. But those guys, I'm not necessarily worried about how they factor into the rotation. But I want to talk about one player, and I'm going to kick it to you guys for other players that you may have seen. I'm going to start with Javin DeLaurier. And I really liked what I saw from him this week in Canada, especially on the leadership side. You know, one thing that I think I have talked about, and I know you guys have talked about, is where's the leadership going to come from this year on a team that's very young? And I like the fact that Javin DeLaurier has, exercised some of that leadership in Canada. You know, when there was times where we had like a little bit of a rut, and he would be there to kind of calm things down. He was there to pull guys into huddles and get people on the same page. He was, leading by example, is what I would put it. You know, he didn't, have the best week as far as like stat wise, but he did what needed to be done, and he helped contribute to every facet of the game. So I want to give a shout out to him for how he played, and especially on the leadership side, because we're going to need that this year. I'm glad that he stepped up to be one of those leaders. But Sam, I want to go to you. Was there another guy that you saw this past week that interested you, or was like, hey, that was pretty cool, or someone that you think may have earned a crack at the rotation?
Yeah. So before I answer the question, I did want to point out we got an email last week from a listener, John Minnick, who wanted to know if we thought that the team or the program, I guess, was injury prone. He said that it seems every year we have multiple injuries, and he doesn't see it on other teams the way that it appears is the case at Duke. This week, I think, was only fodder for that sort of general theory. So thanks, John, for the question. The challenge, I think, in looking at this is that we're just dealing with small samples, and like we saw O'Connell get hurt, and I think the deal was he got elbowed in the face, and now he's got maybe a broken bone in his face. So I don't know how you prevent things like that. As far as all the other injuries, Duke players through the years have had a rash, especially of like foot and lower leg injuries that have been sort of confounding. I don't know if there's anything about the team's program that would indicate that they are especially injury prone. And we did get to that little sneak peek in the broadcast about the new sports performance facility, or the upgraded sports performance facility that they've got in place. So I know that if there is some truth to it, the program is doing everything that it can to mitigate it. That being said, to your question, Donald, I was really impressed with Jack White this week. He hasn't gotten a ton of minutes in his time at Duke. But this feels like a year when he might be able to contribute, especially if guys are going to be out for extended periods for injuries. We know that he's a good rebounder. He's a good outside shooter. The reports from practice have been glowing about his shooting, and I thought that he looked poised and ready to contribute in these games. Moved around really well, played a lot of minutes, especially with all those guys out, and Bolden getting benched for long stretches. So I enjoyed watching Jack White. I think that he could also be providing some of that leadership. He's now been around a little bit, and like you said, that's going to be a challenge for Duke this year. So I enjoyed watching Jack White. Jason, did you have anybody else or any further comments about the guys that we brought up?
Well, so I do want to talk about Jack White. This, to echo some of the things that you did. First one is, Jack White played the third most minutes. RJ Barrett, Zion Williamson, of course, played the most. Jack White was third in minutes for this team, which shows you how much Coach K is confident in him. You're right. He took and made a very nice number of 3-pointers. Jack White was also the second leading rebounder for Duke. He and RJ Barrett tied with 19 rebounds each, more than almost 6.5 rebounds per game. Jack White was the third leading assist guy for Duke. 9 assists for Jack White in the 3 games. I thought he played outstanding basketball when he was in there, and he was in there a lot. And Coach K said in one of the post-game news conferences that Jack White is in the rotation, which for Coach K is a big deal, because K usually has 7, maybe 8 guys in his rotation. When push comes to shove, really, the most you can expect 8 guys to play if the game's a really, really close, competitive, important game. And it sounds to me like Jack White is one of those guys, which is a big development for him. And it's important for Duke because we need more outside shooting. And Jack is clearly a good outside shooter. So that's one of them. The other, there are 3 other guys I want to talk about just really, really quickly. Joey Baker, just a freshman. There's still talk he may redshirt. I think he should redshirt because I'm not sure he's going to be able to crack the rotation and give us anything but mop-up minutes. So there's no reason to blow his red shirt on a season when he's not going to do anything more than, play mop-up time. But Joey Baker, you can see why this kid was a highly touted recruit. He hit 45% of his three-pointers and just has a really, really smooth stroke. Obviously you want to see him do it against better competition. He's going to get a lot of chances in practice to play against better competition. But I like what I saw from Joey Baker, not for this year, but for the future. Guys, do y'all think Antonio Vrankovic, I think he might be a player for Duke this year, especially if Bolden continues to struggle. Vrank's another guy who played really nicely in his limited playing time. Just to be a big body in the middle, I don't mind if we have to go to him every now and then. And then the other guy is Jordan Goldwire, who played a lot. He played the 4th most minutes of anyone. Goldwire still, he's never going to score. But, if something terrible happens, if for some reason Trey Jones gets hurt, if Duke suddenly finds himself in a pinch, I feel like Goldwire's combination of looking to set up other guys and playing really good defense. And man, Goldwire plays tough, in-your-face defense every second he's on the floor. I think Goldwire, if we got in trouble, could be competent for us a little bit at point guard. So I was pleased to see all of that over there, and pleased that those guys, because of the injuries and other stuff, it was nice to see them really get some minutes, get some time, and feel like they're contributing.
Yeah, Jason, you're totally right about Vrankovic, and that he could have an opportunity here if Bolden is struggling. I think that Duke doesn't really have big men outside like true big men outside of Bolden and Vrankovic. I think there's a lot of guys who can get rebounds. Zion, of course, was all over the boards on this trip, but I don't know if we want to. I think Duke wants to have a true big man in there if they can. And if Vrank can handle that, then that's a big opportunity for him. DeLaurier doesn't even really bring that same like level of size and reach. I'd rather see DeLaurier moving, around in the forward spots rather than at center. So that's another big one for me. And also echo on Joey Baker. Again, I agree that I hope he redshirts just because it shows that we've got the depth for him to do so. But he doesn't look overwhelmed. Looks like he could contribute if necessary.
I'll say this about rotations. Someone on the boards mentioned this. I forget who it was, and I kind of agree with them. I kind of love the notion of Duke playing Zion at the 5 or DeLaurier at the 5 and Duke going to a death lineup like the Golden State Warriors, where we go, okay, everyone on the floor can switch except for Trey Jones on the point guard. Mm-hmm. Other than Trey, everyone else switches everything on defense and go ahead and try and cover us at the other end of the floor with Zion going out on the perimeter or DeLaurier going out on the possibilities are really scary for Duke to be the Golden State Warriors of college basketball this year, because Zion is such a unique kind of player.
I don't know if that works with DeLaurier, because I just don't know if he brings enough on offense. But if Jack White can do that and Zion is playing center, I think that's the freshman with Jack White, I think, is that version of that lineup. And yeah, if it works, it's very cool.
Or Alex O'Connell.
Yeah, certainly.
Because Cam Reddish and RJ Barrett both have the size to be able to play, essentially power forward, whatever you want. I mean, this is everybody switching kind of lineup, but you can't tell me that and RJ and Cam Reddish all rebounding, that Duke is going to get killed on the boards. And if you're not getting killed on the boards, the other team there's no way a team can play a conventional big man against Cam Reddish or RJ or Zion Williamson and hope to stay in front of them. There's no conventional big man in college basketball who can stay in front of either one of those guys.
I think the flip side of that is that if you have O'Connell out there, I want to see a little bit more defense, or I want to see Cam Reddish play defense. I want to see him play, and I want to see him and O'Connell be able to handle the perimeter defense together before I think that, like, I think Jack White is further along in that regard, which is why I think I was leaning towards him. But yeah, we will get a few more games to see them experiment with it, and I will not be surprised if we see Coach K try one of those all perimeter lineups like the Golden State Warriors death lineup.
Yeah, but the key to that lineup will be, can we shoot from the outside? And I think with, guys like Alex O'Connell, Jack White can shoot well from the outside. Cam Reddish is supposed to be a great shooter. If we can get those guys shooting well, that's going to lead into that, because then teams can't just pack the paint and hope that we're going to miss open contested 3-pointers. If we got guys that are going to hit 3-pointers, that's going to just make everything so much more wide open, because they're going to have to go out and defend them. And when you do that, all those lanes are going to be open for Reddish and Zion and RJ Barrett to just slash, and even Trey Jones to slash in the paint and get easy buckets.
And
is
guys,
it November yet? I want it to be November. This is so exciting.
And let me just ruin everything by reminding everyone that Duke always only plays 6 or 7 guys significant minutes. None of this is going to happen. We just like to speculate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One can dream. As always, we'd like to thank Byrd Campbell for sponsoring this episode of the DBR podcast. And Tucker Byrd actually sent us a quick note on Saturday about Zion Williamson. And he says, and I quote, "Fellas, it's finally struck me who Zion Williamson reminded me of. Bumblebee from the Transformers movie. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Tucker Byrd, I have to agree." Okay, guys, now we are on to parting shots, and I will start with you, Jason.
So someone posted this on the boards, but I think not enough people saw it. It's a wonderful, wonderful link that you all should all follow. Robert Drum was a offensive lineman for Duke football back in the mid to late 2000s, and he was there. He was a junior when David Cutcliffe first arrived at Duke in 2008. Now, Rob did not play very much. He played 7 snaps his junior year, and then, also played pretty sparingly in a backup role as a senior. But playing those 2 seasons, his junior and senior year for David Cutcliffe, really impacted Rob Drum. And Rob wrote a blog post that is titled 10 Things I Learned from Playing for Coach David Cutcliffe. And it's a wonderful, wonderful column about the life lessons, the things that are going to help you in business, help you live your life, just help you succeed in general, that Rob learned playing for Cutcliffe. And it's a wonderful tribute to the man that David Cutcliffe is, and to the way he runs his program, and to his success at Duke, because Rob points out that the previous 2 seasons that he'd been at Duke, they had won a total of 1 game. And Cutcliffe arrived and immediately started to turn things around. And one of the ways he turned things around is by instilling these important life values about the way you play, the way you perform, the way you conduct yourself throughout your entire life. And that changed the program. It's a great column. I really recommend folks read it. And again, I want to point out, the guy who's writing this is not some guy who went on to be a big deal success for Duke. It's not a guy who played in the NFL or anything like that. This is a guy who is little more than a practice player. This is some dude who David Cutcliffe said, "I need you to bust your butt every single day in practice to make us better, but you're never going to play in games." And Rob bought into that. And Rob says all the other guys bought into that. And that's why Duke is successful in football today. And he says that's because of David Cutcliffe. So great column. Check it out, please. I'll put a link to it in the, on the bulletin boards in our page for the podcast. Or you can Google robdrum.us. That's Rob's website, robdrum.us, and check it out. It's really worth reading.
Thanks for that, Jason. My parting shot is a very quick one. As we all know, the Little League World Series is going on right now, and I just want to give a shout out to a team that's straight out of suburban Detroit, Michigan. The team from Grosse Pointe Woods, who is in the championship right now. They're in the consolation bracket, awaiting the winner of Texas and Georgia. They'll play tomorrow, but I just want to send a shout out to them because we don't get a lot of teams from Michigan in the Little League World Series. They've been 2 years in a row, and last year they did not play well, but this year they have been hammering the ball. They're ready to go, and hopefully they can deliver a title to Michigan. So Grosse Pointe Woods, Michigan, love you guys, and hope you guys can bring it home. Good luck in the rest of the Little League World Series, but it is a fantastic Little League World Series that we've had so far, and if you aren't watching it, you just don't like happy events because these guys are always happy. Sam, your parting shot.
Okay. Jason brought up Duke football and Coach Cutcliffe. I just wanted to quickly go over our plan for football for this season. So I know that in years past we've covered Duke football a little bit. We've kind of gone back and forth on, how much of that we're doing, and we're Duke basketball report, but we also, you can come to DBR to read all about Duke football. So what do we do? So the plan for this year, and I hope our listeners appreciate this. I know that a lot of folks on here are just Duke basketball fans, but the three of us are into Duke football. We know we also have a lot of listeners that are into football. So our plan for this year that we're going to try to stick to is that we are going to cover the football team. We'll do it kind of like on the back half of the episode every week, so that if you're not into football, we'll kind of give that warning. But we will be covering all the games. We'll do whatever previews we can. We'll certainly be recapping. So I'd say starting pretty much now, expect us weekly all the way into basketball season and beyond. For until we get to April or May again into the summertime. But we're back now pretty regularly because, as you guys know, Duke kicks off next Friday night against Army. That is game one. It is week one of the college football season. So we'll be here covering that. I'm looking forward to it. I'll get to go to a bunch of the games this year, of course. Hopefully Donald and Jason will make it out here to join me. So looking forward to covering the Blue Devils on the gridiron.
And before we wrap up, my bad, we forgot to do Player of the Week.
Oh my goodness.
I think I have a feeling who's going to be Player of the Week, but we got to do it real quick. Jason, go.
I have been to Zion, and I ain't leaving.
That's one for Zion. Sam.
I actually am just remembering now from the broadcast from his 94 Feet with Jay Billis that we were informed that his name is actually supposed to be pronounced Zion Williamson, not Zion Williamson, but that he prefers for the announcers to say Zion Williamson because it sounds cooler. So my Player of the Week this week is Zion Williamson.
And you know what? As Lauryn Hill once said, the joy of my world is in Zion. That's 3 for 3. That was pretty easy, but I will give a shout out to RJ Barrett because if Zion Williamson did not exist, he probably wouldn't play or unanimous Player of the Week. But the first of many.
The dude scored 30 points per game, and we didn't even consider him for Player of the Week. That's insane.
We apologize, RJ, but I guarantee you're going to get a couple this year.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be splitting a lot of them this year. That is my early prediction for the season. But it's going to be a great season. That's going to do it.
Wait. Can you imagine? By the way, all the recruiting services said that RJ is the best player in the country. Zion's the third best. They all say that Cam Reddish is the second best player in the country. So we didn't get to see a guy who was as good as the both of them. Oh my God.
I'm not sure how we're going to be able to keep this to ourselves until October and just we're going to have to I might have to learn how to do a Rubik's Cube or something just to kill time between now and October.
I'm lucky that I'm too busy with school to really get into it. And
that's what I should have done. I should have gone back to school.
This was the year for it, man. To be here for it. Ooh.
Oh my God. You are so lucky.
Hey, Sam, on behalf of Jason and I hate you. But you know what? We're going to keep it up for another day. That does it for episode 123 of the Duke Basketball Report podcast. Remember, guys, you can catch us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, and you know what? We're trying to get onto Spotify. I know this is something that we've worked on for a couple weeks. We're just waiting to hear back from them. So hopefully in the next couple weeks before football season starts up, we will be able to say that we're on Spotify. We're also on Google Play. But if you guys subscribe to us, leave a nice review. It really helps us out with ratings. It helps us out with our visibility. And we're going to be doing a lot of great things this fall. And hopefully you guys will enjoy all of it. But for now, for Sam and for Jason, I'm Donald. We'll check you out next time. And Duke Band, take us home.